Good day to you. This is Galactic bringing you a special presentation, a full coverage of the book of Revelation. Originally, or in the original tongue, the approximate pronunciation is Apokalypsis, from which we get the apocalypse, which means the pulling aside of the veil. We've covered the first 4 chapters in 2 brief lectures, so we're now going to continue reading in chapter 5, which is going to go quickly because I'm going to skip most of it. A couple of man-made subtitles. I'll just read them so you know the general thrust of this chapter, which you could read if you wish. The book with the 7 seals, and the angel's exaltation of the Lamb. The entire book is about, this entire chapter is about a book. So I'll read the first 2 verses, the first 4. And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. This is a classified book. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof, which are 7. And no man in heaven, so there are men in heaven. Actually, that's in the New Testament. In Yeshua's transfiguration on the mount, Moses and Elijah appeared. That would be Moshe and Eliah. So those men are in heaven. So is Yeshua. And no man in heaven, nor in the earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. And I wept much, because no man was found worthy to open and read the book, neither to look thereon. So from this line here, I wept because no man was found worthy. Johann has some idea of the value of this book. It doesn't say how he knows that, although he may have gotten it from the Spirit directly when the strong angel proclaimed with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book. So Johann must have taken his clue from that, but logically, knowing how people come to this kind of a conclusion, he understood somehow that this book has value. So he was crying because nobody could open the book. So this is part of the signification part of the book, the coding part, where you have to use wisdom. I will not attempt to divulge what I think is the correct interpretation, because I don't believe that that's necessary. This is written in order to strike an impression on the reader. This will be up to you, but I'm just giving you what I can to help you to perceive what's happening. Okay, I won't read any more, because most of what follows is simply elaboration on that. All these words are important. I'm not skipping them because they're not important. But any of this you can study on your own. And so I'm going to skip to the end of chapter 5. Every creature which is in heaven and on earth and under the earth and in the sea gave a blessing. Why? I'll go back so you know why they're rejoicing. In the midst of the throne and the 4 beasts, in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns, there's the 7 again, and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God set forth into all the earth. That would essentially be this message, as we know from the first chapter. The Lamb is, of course, Yeshua, and he came and took the book out of the right hand of him that sat upon the throne. And then there was tremendous rejoicing in heaven, because Yeshua alone is capable of opening this book. chapter 6. As soon as my internet responds. This is the sequence of the opening of the seals. There are 7 of them, and I'm only going to encapsulate this to save time. The first seal is a rider on a white horse. The second seal is about a red horse and the beginning of a conflict. The third seal appears to have to do with a famine. The fourth seal is the beginning of death and hell, killing with the sword and with hunger and with death, recapitulating the first seals. The first 2 following. The first seal is the conqueror. The second 2 are war and famine, and here it's summarizing sword, famine, and death. By the way, the famine that is at least referred to, because this is now modern times, this famine actually occurred. It occurred in Ukraine in 1932. It was enforced by Joseph Jugashvili Stalin, and he succeeded in murdering 10 million farmers in under 2 years, beating Hitler's record in every category for number of killed, the amount of time it took to kill them, the horrific way in which it was done, and it preceded the so-called Holocaust by a decade. Americans simply have not been allowed to know that. And so this is a direct correlation with the sealed book of Revelation. You were not allowed to know that. I just told you. The 5th seal is the martyrs. The 6th seal has to do with a form of terror. And the final verse, ending the first 6 seals, following which will come the 7th seal, that is always significant. I want to recapitulate something from the 7 messages to the churches, that the 7th one was written to America. And I'm saying America emblematically here, not as a nation necessarily, but as a state of mind where you're self-satisfied. That would be affluent and/or narcissistic. The kings of the earth and the great men and rich, chief captains, mighty men, every bondman and free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and the wrath of the Lamb. They're starting to realize who is coming. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? I don't know how you react to that, but that sounds terrifying to me. In the next chapter, chapter 7, we get the opening of the 7th seal. But before that, there's an interlude. And so this is very significant, and this happens repeatedly. Certain scholars have counted 7 significant 7s in the book, where the 6th of whatever it was, either message or seal or vial, between the 6th and the 7th is an important message, and this is the first of those. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to say that this is about the 144,000. 144,000 is a significant mathematical number. It is 12 times 12 times 1,000. That is obviously a symbolic number. We were told in the beginning that this book is entirely written in code. So this is a representative number. This refers to the servants of God who need to be sealed in their foreheads. That's your mind. This is about your mind. And I heard the number of them which were sealed. There are considered to be 12 tribes in Israel. All 12 are named here. However, the list of names differs in various places in Old and New Testament scripture. None of the lists match on the names of the 12 tribes. I won't go into that except to point out to you that these names mean nothing. If they do, I don't see any way of understanding the significance of the 12 tribes as separate tribes. They're all treated equally, from Benjamino to Joseph to Judah. And Judah is the tribe of the Jews. So the Jews are equally part of Israel. They're 1/12 of the part of Israel. And you might ask, what happened to the rest of the tribes of Israel? You can find out by reading the Bible. They were lost to history. That is an anomaly. So that's what happened to 11/12, you could say 10/12 of the tribes of Israel. And so that nation on the map right now by that name is clearly a fake. Bear that in mind at all times. There is no actual Israel in the nation by that name. However, among these people who are sealed at the end of time are the Jews. So don't ever count them out. Paul said that too. Don't think that they've been cut off forever. The Jews are just like everybody else. No difference from the Goyim. Bear that in mind. There is some very, very good information here on the benefits of being sealed by the Spirit in the final hour, which is today, and of which this book is speaking. This is talking to you. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for the space of half an hour. I'm not going to read this whole chapter, except these are now 7 angels that need to sound, and it gets worse and worse and worse, so that by the time the 4th angel sounds, the sun is being smitten, a third of the moon, and the third part of the stars. You may take that any way you want, from literal to figurative. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter whether it's literal or not, because there's no way to decide that. But there is one thing that's decided by that. This is the worst. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe! That's bad. Because of the next 3 of the 7 angels. chapter 9. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. I won't read the rest of that. This is obviously about technology and what it's going to do to you and your children. And that is one woe. The sixth angel sounded. This is the second woe, and I won't read all this except to name a couple of things that are significant for us. The Euphrates. The Euphrates. Do you know where the Euphrates is? It's in Iraq. So that's the location of this woe. And what it says in here is extremely vicious. That ends the 9th chapter. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head. That rainbow is extraordinarily significant, and I know that from my research, which was refused in every church in which I presented it, because it's true. So this is a very special angel. He has the rainbow of the covenant of God with all creatures of the earth and the earth itself. That's the rainbow of Noah after the flood from the Chicxulub impactor, as science now knows. That is the significance of the rainbow, about which you can read in Genesis chapters 8 and 9. The only time that God ever spoke poetry, and I won't read it to you now because I'll cry. I cry every time I read the poem of God, of his love for this earth. I want you to think about something, how much it must hurt our Father to have to do what he's going to do. This angel had in his hand a little book open. That word, little book, is biblioridion. What it means is a little book. And I won't read that because you can read it, but I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit, because the voice which I heard from heaven spake to me again and said, Go and take the biblioridion, which is open in the hand of the angel, which standeth upon the sea and upon the earth. And I went to the angel and said, Give me the little book. And he said, Take it, and eat it, and it shall make your belly bitter, but it shall be in your mouth as sweet as honey. This is what was said to Ezekiel when he did the same thing. So this is a direct reference to the vision of Yechezkel, that is Ezekiel. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and it was in my mouth sweet as honey, fulfilling that prophecy. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And the angel said unto me, Thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. I will not comment on that line, except to say that I always knew when I read this, the many times I've read it, and I recall now, that was written to me. Then comes chapter 11, which is on the two witnesses. This is an incredible chapter, and at the termination of this, it says that the second woe is now past, and now the third woe comes quickly. And the seventh angel sounded. So this is now the end of the interim, and the conclusion of the angel sounding, the seventh. The seventh in the series of all these series of sevens is integral, and you must read it differently It's one reason for the pause, and you notice there was also a pause in heaven of about a half an hour. These pauses are significant, and they correspond to the Selah in the poem, that is, the Psalms. In other words, it's a literary and poetic device to make sure that you get this. So I won't read that, but it's fantastic. And that's the end of the 11th chapter, and that's 20 minutes. I'm sorry I went a little over. We'll be right back. This is Anagalactic, bringing you the Book of Revelation for today.